The quantum particles danced across Marcus Reed's holographic display, their patterns telling a story of possibilities that existed between reality and imagination. 3 years of research into quantum entanglement communication at MIT's Advanced Physics Lab had led to this moment. His fingers flew across the haptic interface, making minute adjustments to the experiment parameters. Just a little more, he muttered, watching the entanglement pattern stabilize. The breakthrough he'd been pursuing was finally within reach. Then the lab's lights flickered, and his carefully calibrated equipment went dark. A low hum filled the air, accompanied by a shimmer of iridescent light that seemed to bend reality itself. Marcus stepped back from his workstation, heart racing as the air in the center of his lab began to ripple like heat waves off summer asphalt. The ripples coalesced into 3 tall figures, their appearance so sudden and silent that Marcus questioned his own sanity. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, with silvery skin that seemed to capture and reflect light in impossible ways. Their eyes, deep pools of swirling violet energy, fixed upon him with unsettling intensity. Dr. Marcus Reed, the central figure spoke, its voice resonating with harmonics that made Marcus's teeth vibrate. You have been selected under Article 7 of the Galactic Unity Act. Marcus glanced at his coffee cup, wondering if someone had slipped something into it. I'm sorry, the what now? Your genetic profile and psychological evaluation indicate optimal compatibility for the integration program, the figure continued, seemingly unperturbed by his confusion. I am Executor Venn of the Stellar Council. Your presence is required immediately. Look, Marcus said, backing toward his desk, I'm in the middle of critical research. Whatever this is, it'll have to wait. His hand found the edge of his desk, fingers inching toward the panic button beneath. A soft chime filled the air, and Marcus found himself unable to move, frozen in place by some invisible force. The selection is non-negotiable, Executor Venn stated, producing a crystalline tablet that projected complex holographic symbols. Earth's government signed the treaty 3 months ago. Your participation is both legally required and vital to the future of human-alien relations. You're saying Earth agreed to this? Marcus managed to ask, finding he could still speak despite his immobility. Why haven't we heard anything about it? The integration program is being implemented in phases to prevent societal disruption, another of the aliens explained, this one wearing what appeared to be scientific insignia. You are part of the first wave of selections, chosen for your intellectual capabilities and genetic markers. Before Marcus could protest further, the world around him dissolved into streams of light. When reality reasserted itself, he found himself standing in what appeared to be a vast chamber aboard what could only be a spaceship. Through enormous windows, he could see Earth hanging like a blue jewel against the black velvet of space. Welcome to Unity Station, a new voice said, musical and feminine. Marcus turned to find himself face to face with perhaps the most striking being he'd ever seen. She stood slightly shorter than the other aliens, her skin a deeper silver that seemed to shimmer with hints of blue. Intricate patterns of light danced across her surface like living tattoos, and her eyes held depths of wisdom that made him feel like a child in comparison. I am Ambassador Lyra of the Centauri Alliance, she said, offering a slight bow. I understand this is overwhelming, but your selection is no accident, Dr. Reed. Your work on quantum entanglement communication has already brought you closer to understanding the principles we use for interstellar travel than any other human researcher. Marcus found he could move again, though his legs felt unsteady. My research. You've been monitoring it? We've been monitoring many things, Lyra said, gesturing for him to follow as she began walking through the chamber. Humanity stands at a crucial threshold. Your species has potential that you've barely begun to understand, but you also face challenges that could destroy you before you reach that potential. The Galactic Unity Act is meant to help bridge that gap. By forcing selected humans to what? Marry aliens? Marcus asked, his scientific curiosity warring with indignation at being essentially kidnapped from his lab. Lyra's expression shifted in a way that might have been amusement. The integration program is more complex than simple marriage. It's about creating genuine bonds between our species, sharing knowledge and understanding. And yes, in some cases, exploring genetic compatibility. But you weren't chosen randomly, Marcus. Your work, your mind, your very genetic structure, they all point to someone who could help shape the future of both our species. They reached what appeared to be an observation deck, and Lyra waved her hand, causing the windows to zoom in on various locations on Earth. Your world faces multiple crises: environmental, social, technological. We can help you overcome them, but direct intervention would stunt humanity's growth. Instead, we seek to create connections, to guide and support through genuine relationships. Marcus watched as images of natural disasters, wars, and technological accidents played across the windows. And if I refuse? You won't, Lyra said with quiet certainty. Not because we'll force you, but because you're already asking yourself the real questions. Not, how do I get out of this, but what could I learn from this? Not, why me, but what could I achieve with access to this level of technology? She turned to face him fully. Tell me I'm wrong. Marcus remained silent, his mind already racing with the possibilities, the potential discoveries, the chances to solve problems he'd thought would take centuries to unravel. Lyra smiled, the patterns of light across her skin shifting into new configurations. The next few days will be interesting, she said. You'll meet representatives from various alien species, all interested in human integration. Some will be diplomatic, others more aggressive in their approach. Remember that while the program requires you to form a bond, the choice of with whom remains yours. And what about my research back on Earth? Marcus asked, thinking of his lab, his team, his life's work. Your research? Lyra's eyes sparkled with something that looked remarkably like mischief. Dar. Reed, your research is about to take a quantum leap of its own. Shall we begin? Unity Station's residential wing resembled a luxury hotel designed by someone who'd only seen Earth architecture in dreams. Marcus sat at what appeared to be a desk made of flowing liquid crystal, trying to focus on the quantum mechanics text Lyra had provided. The alien language had somehow been translated into English, revealing principles that made his years of research seem like kindergarten physics. A chime echoed through his quarters, followed by a holographic notification indicating his presence was requested in the station's diplomatic chamber. His first official meeting with potential integration candidates was about to begin. Marcus straightened his clothing, some kind of self-cleaning fabric that adjusted to maintain optimal temperature, and headed for the door. The corridors of Unity Station were a marvel of engineering, with walls that shifted between opaque and transparent to reveal breathtaking views of space. Other humans occasionally passed by, all wearing the same slightly dazed expression he probably had. They were the chosen ones, the first wave of Earth's representatives in this grand experiment. The diplomatic chamber doors parted silently as Marcus approached. Inside, the room defied physics, with multiple levels floating in apparent zero gravity while maintaining their own localized gravitational fields. Aliens of various species mingled with the small group of selected humans, their forms ranging from nearly human-like to utterly bizarre. Dr. Reed, a familiar voice called. Lyra approached, accompanied by 3 other aliens. Allow me to introduce some interested parties. The first alien stepped forward, her form tall and imposing. Silver armor seemed to grow from her crystalline skin, and her eyes glowed with an intense red light. I am War Prince Sandra of the Arcturus Dominion, she announced. Your work on quantum entanglement has military applications. Before Marcus could respond, another alien moved forward, this one seemingly composed of swirling energy contained within a humanoid form. Professor Helios, Quantum Dynamics Institute, the being's thoughts echoed directly in Marcus's mind. Your theories on particle interaction are intriguing. The third alien remained slightly back, their form shifting between states of matter like a living mercury sculpture. They didn't speak, but Marcus felt their intense curiosity as a physical sensation. Your integration partner will be chosen through a combination of compatibility factors and mutual agreement, Lyra explained. Over the next few weeks, you'll have the opportunity to. An alarm suddenly blared through the station, cutting her off. Red light pulsed along the walls, and a computerized voice announced, "Warning. Quantum core instability detected. Containment systems failing." Marcus felt the subtle vibration in the station's artificial gravity. The other aliens quickly moved to various control panels, their movements urgent but controlled. Lyra's skin patterns shifted to sharp, aggressive angles. The station's quantum drive is experiencing unexpected fluctuations, she explained, her voice tense. "If we can't stabilize it." "Let me help," Marcus interrupted, already moving toward the nearest control interface. "My research might be relevant." War Prince Sandra blocked his path. "This is highly classified technology. No human has ever." "We don't have time for secrecy," Marcus snapped, ducking under her arm. His mind was already racing through calculations, applying his theoretical work to what he'd learned from the alien physics text. "The quantum field collapse I was studying on Earth, the principles should be similar." Lyra hesitated for a fraction of a second, then nodded. The control interface reconfigured itself under Marcus's hands, displaying complex multidimensional equations. He immersed himself in the data, barely aware of the aliens watching in fascination as his fingers flew across the holographic controls. "The containment field is trying to compensate for quantum fluctuations, but it's creating a feedback loop," he muttered. "If we inverse the polarity of the secondary containment matrix and synchronize it with the natural oscillation pattern." His hands moved with certainty born of years of research, applying theories he'd developed in his Earth lab to alien technology far beyond human development. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the station's vibration smoothed out, and the warning lights faded. "Quantum core stabilized," the computer announced. "Containment systems nominal." The silence that followed was profound. Marcus became aware of every alien I fixed upon him, their expressions ranging from shock to interest to something that might have been fear. "Impossible," War Prince Sandra whispered. "No species has ever intuited quantum mechanics so naturally." Professor Helios's energy form pulsed with excitement. "This confirms our theories about human potential. Their neural architecture allows for quantum computational processing we haven't evolved." The Mercury-like alien finally spoke, their voice a symphony of harmonics. "Perhaps this is why the prophecies spoke of human integration as crucial to galactic evolution." Lyra stepped forward, her expression intense. "You understand what you just did was supposed to be impossible. The quantum core technology is beyond even some advanced civilizations." Marcus shrugged, suddenly self-conscious. "I just applied the principles I was working with on Earth. When you understand the underlying quantum mechanics, it's really just a matter of." He trailed off as he realized the implications. He'd just proved humans could not only understand but improve upon alien technology. No wonder they were so interested in integration. "I believe," Lyra said softly, "our selection process has been validated. Though I suspect this particular human may be more than any of us anticipated." The other aliens moved closer, their interest now sharp and focused. Marcus had a feeling his life was about to become significantly more complicated than mere arranged marriage with an alien. "So," he said, trying to maintain his composure, "about that integration program." War Prince Sandra laughed, a sound like crystal chimes. "Now we negotiate for real power, little human. You've proven your worth." As the aliens began what appeared to be a complex diplomatic discussion about his future, Marcus wondered if solving the quantum core crisis might have been the easy part of his day. Somehow, he suspected the real challenges were just beginning. Marcus couldn't sleep. The events in the diplomatic chamber had transformed his status aboard Unity Station overnight. Where before he'd been just another human selectee, now he found himself at the center of an increasingly complex political web. His quarters had been upgraded to a luxurious suite, and a steady stream of alien diplomats sought his attention. But something wasn't adding up. He sat at his new workstation, reviewing the quantum core data from the crisis. The holographic display filled the air around him with streams of information, pattern analyses, and system logs. The station's AI had granted him unprecedented access after his intervention. "Computer," he called out, "show me the core fluctuation patterns from the last week." The data materialized before him, and Marcus frowned. The instability hadn't been random. There was a clear pattern, almost like a soft chime announced a visitor. The door slid open to reveal Lyra, her silver skin dimmed to a midnight blue in the low light. "You should be resting," she said, moving to stand beside him. "Look at this," Marcus said, gesturing to the data streams. The quantum core didn't malfunction. It was sabotaged. These patterns are artificial, designed to look like natural fluctuations. Lyra's skin patterns shifted to sharp, angular forms, a sign of concern, Marcus had learned. "Are you certain?" "Absolutely." Someone with deep knowledge of quantum mechanics deliberately destabilized the core. But why? He turned to face her. And why were there so many high-ranking aliens present when it happened? "You suspect a setup," Lyra said. It wasn't a question. "I suspect I'm missing something big." Marcus stood, pacing the room. The integration program, the selection of humans, the convenient timing of the crisis. "There's more going on here than marriage politics, isn't there?" Lyra was silent for a long moment, her skin patterns swirling in complex configurations. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "What do you know about the prophecy of convergence?" "Nothing," Marcus admitted. "But I heard it mentioned after the crisis. It's an ancient prediction, dating back to the early days of galactic civilization," Lyra explained. "It speaks of a young species with unique abilities, the ability to perceive quantum reality differently, to bridge gaps between technologies and species that seemed unbridgeable." She met his eyes. "Many believe humanity is that species. And the integration program is partly genuine diplomatic initiative, partly carefully orchestrated test." Lyra's skin flashed with patterns Marcus had never seen before. "But there are factions who fear what humanity might become. The sabotage was likely their attempt to discredit the program, or worse, trigger an incident that would end it entirely." A new hologram appeared in the center of the room, War Prince Sandra, her crystalline form radiating urgency. "Ambassador, we have a situation. The Arcturus Council is calling for immediate suspension of the integration program. They're citing security concerns after the core incident." "Of course they are," Marcus muttered. "They saw what happened. They're afraid of us." "Not just afraid," another voice added as Professor Helios's energy form materialized. "The quantum core incident proved human potential exceeds our models. Some believe proceeding with integration could destabilize the entire galactic power structure." Marcus looked between the three aliens, his mind racing. The core incident was meant to fail, he realized. "I was supposed to be helpless, proving humans aren't ready for advanced technology. Instead, you demonstrated exactly what the prophecy predicted," Lyra finished. "And now certain parties will move to ensure that demonstration remains isolated." "How long do we have?" Marcus asked. "The council convenes in 6 hours, Xandra replied. "Without evidence of deliberate sabotage, they'll shut down the program. All humans will be returned to Earth, their memories altered. Then we have 6 hours to prove it was sabotage." Marcus turned back to his workstation. "Professor Helios, I'll need access to all quantum sensor logs. War Prince Sandra, your military experience might help identify the saboteur's methods." "Lyra." He paused, meeting her gaze. I need to know everything about the prophecy of convergence. The real version, not the diplomatic one. The aliens exchanged looks, having one of those silent communications Marcus had learned to recognize. Finally, Lyra nodded. What you're suggesting could trigger a diplomatic crisis. We're already in a diplomatic crisis, Marcus pointed out. But from what you've told me, this is about more than diplomacy. It's about humanity's future, and maybe the galaxy's too. If we're wrong about this. Xandra warned. And if we're right? Marcus challenged. You chose me for this program. Now I'm choosing to fight for it. Are you with me? The answer came in actions rather than words. Helios moved to the workstation, data streams flowing from their energy form into the system. Xandra began accessing military protocols, her crystalline armor gleaming with purpose. And Lyra. Lyra stepped closer to Marcus, her hand brushing his arm as her skin patterns formed shapes he'd never seen before. Together then, she said softly. For the future of both our peoples. Marcus nodded, turning back to the quantum data with renewed determination. 6 hours to save the integration program, prevent a galactic diplomatic crisis, and possibly fulfill an ancient alien prophecy. Just another day in his new life among the stars. Time was running out. Marcus stood before the Galactic Council chamber, a vast circular room that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Hundreds of alien representatives occupied seats that spiraled upward into what appeared to be infinite space, their forms ranging from energy beings to crystalline entities to species that defied human comprehension. The evidence they'd gathered over the past 6 hours was displayed in complex holographic patterns around him. Quantum signatures, security logs, and communication records all pointed to a conspiracy that reached into the highest levels of multiple alien governments. The Council recognizes Dr. Marcus Reed of Earth, announced the Chief Arbiter, a being of pure light whose voice resonated at multiple frequencies simultaneously. You claim to have evidence of deliberate sabotage against Unity Station. More than sabotage, Marcus replied, his voice steady despite his racing heart. Evidence of a coordinated attempt to derail the integration program and suppress humanity's development. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Marcus caught glimpses of Lyra, Xandra, and Helios at their designated positions around the chamber. They had helped him piece together the truth, but now he had to present it alone. The quantum core incident was engineered, he continued, manipulating the holographic displays to highlight specific data patterns. These signatures show deliberate manipulation at a quantum level, designed to appear as natural deterioration. But the real evidence isn't in the sabotage itself, it's in what the saboteurs were trying to hide. The holographic display shifted, showing a complex network of quantum relationships. When I stabilized the core, I discovered something unexpected. The quantum field wasn't just powering the station, it was measuring something. Specifically, it was measuring human quantum and neural patterns. New murmurs, these ones tinged with concern. Marcus pressed on. Someone has been secretly studying human consciousness at the quantum level. And what they found frightened them enough to try to shut down the entire integration program. These are serious allegations, the Chief Arbiter stated. What evidence supports your conclusions? Marcus gestured, and new data streams appeared. These are quantum consciousness readings from various species, collected by Unity Station sensors. And these. He highlighted a separate set of patterns, are human readings. Notice anything unusual? The chamber fell silent as the council studied the data. Finally, a crystalline elder spoke. The human patterns, they're in quantum superposition. Multiple consciousness states existing simultaneously. Exactly, Marcus confirmed. Humans don't just think linearly, our minds exist in a quantum state of possibility. It's why we can intuitively understand quantum mechanics, why we can adapt to new concepts so quickly, and why. He paused, looking directly at Lyra. Why the prophecy of convergence speaks of our species. The chamber erupted in chaos. Voices in hundreds of languages filled the air as council members argued, debated, and in some cases seemed ready to flee. The chief arbiter's form pulsed with intense light, restoring order. "You speak of the prophecy," they said. "Few outside the council know its true content." "I know enough," Marcus replied. "It speaks of a species that would bridge the gap between classical and quantum consciousness. A species that could help the galaxy's civilizations evolve beyond their current limitations." He smiled slightly. "Sound like anyone you know?" "If what you say is true," another council member spoke, "then humanity represents both incredible potential and incredible risk. Your quantum consciousness could revolutionize our understanding of reality, or it could destabilize the very fabric of galactic society. That's why the integration program is so important," Marcus argued. "It's not just about marriage or genetics, it's about guided evolution. Both for humanity and for your civilizations." He turned slowly, addressing the entire chamber. Those who tried to sabotage the program weren't just afraid of human potential. They were afraid of change itself. The chief arbiter's light dimmed thoughtfully. "You understand that by revealing this knowledge, you've placed yourself, and humanity, at a crossroads. The council must now decide whether to proceed with integration or take more drastic measures." Marcus felt the weight of countless alien gazes upon him. In this moment, he wasn't just speaking for himself, but for all of humanity. Their future in the galactic community hung on what happened next. "I understand," he said. "And I choose to trust that this council values truth over fear, progress over stagnation." He straightened, his voice growing stronger. "Humanity is ready to take its place among the stars. Not as a threat, but as partners in evolution. The only question is, are you ready to evolve with us?" A deep silence fell over the chamber. In that moment of possibility, with the fate of two peoples hanging in the balance, Marcus caught Lyra's eye. Her skin patterns had formed into a configuration he'd never seen before, one that seemed to pulse with hope, fear, and something that might have been love. The future, he realized, wasn't just about species or prophecies or quantum consciousness. It was about connections, between individuals, between peoples, between different ways of seeing reality. And in that moment, standing before the assembled power of the galaxy, Marcus Reed made his final choice. 1 year later, Unity Station had transformed. What was once a simple diplomatic outpost had become the heart of a revolutionary experiment in galactic cooperation. Marcus stood at the observation deck, watching as another group of human selectees arrived via quantum transport. "Still getting used to the view?" Lyra asked, joining him at the window. Her silver skin rippled with patterns that Marcus had learned to read as affection. "I don't think I'll ever get used to it," he replied, smiling as he watched the new arrival's expressions of wonder. "Remember when that was me? You were considerably more analytical about it," Lyra teased. "Most humans don't immediately start theorizing about quantum transportation mechanics." The station hummed with activity around them. After the council hearing, everything had changed. The revelation of humanity's quantum consciousness potential had sent shockwaves through galactic society. Some feared it, others embraced it, but no one could ignore it. "Ambassador Reed," a young voice called. Marcus turned to find one of the new human arrivals, a teenage girl with bright eyes and a tablet full of equations. "I read your paper on quantum neural interface theory. Is it true we're going to start testing direct consciousness links with alien technology?" "Testing is the key word," Marcus replied, noting how the girl's excitement mirrored his own from a year ago. "Professor Helios is leading the research team. Speaking of which..." He checked the quantum time display floating in the air. "We have a session scheduled." The girl's eyes widened. Could I observe?" Marcus glanced at Lyra, who nodded with a shimmer of amusement across her skin. "Come along then. You might as well see what you're in for." They made their way through the station's transformed corridors. Where once there had been stark separation between alien and human sectors, now the spaces flowed together in an architectural representation of unity. Humans and aliens worked side by side, their different approaches to problems creating solutions neither would have discovered alone. The research lab occupied what had once been the diplomatic chamber. Professor Helios's energy form pulsed with greeting as they entered. "Ah, Marcus. We've made a breakthrough in the consciousness synchronization protocols." War Prince Sandra was there too, her crystalline armor now bearing the symbols of the new Joint Security Force. "The military applications are promising," she said. "Combined human-alien crews are outperforming all previous benchmarks." "Because we're not just combining bodies or technologies," Marcus explained to the wide-eyed teenager beside him. "We're combining ways of thinking, ways of perceiving reality itself." The lab's central platform activated, displaying a real-time map of quantum consciousness interactions across the station. Thousands of points of light represented minds working together, human and alien thoughts weaving into patterns that had never existed before. "The prophecy of convergence wasn't just about humans," Lyra said softly. "It was about this moment, when different species could truly begin to understand each other, not just through words or actions, but through the quantum fabric of consciousness itself." Marcus watched as Professor Helios began explaining quantum neural theory to the eager teenager. A year ago, he had stood before the Galactic Council, arguing for humanity's potential. Now that potential was being realized in ways even he hadn't imagined. "We're receiving reports from Earth," Xandra announced. "The first joint research cities are ready. Humanity's quantum awakening is proceeding faster than projected." "Any problems?" Marcus asked, though he already knew the answer from the way her crystals caught the light. "The usual fears and resistance," she replied. "But the results speak for themselves. Crime rates drop wherever consciousness linking is implemented. Scientific breakthroughs are occurring daily. Even the environmental damage is beginning to reverse as human quantum consciousness interfaces with planetary systems." "And the opposition?" Lyra asked, her patterns showing concern. "Diminishing," Xandra assured them. "It's hard to argue against success." Marcus turned back to the window, watching as another transport ship arrived. Each new group of humans brought their own unique quantum signatures, their own potential waiting to be awakened. The integration program had evolved far beyond its original concept of arranged marriages. It had become a bridge not just between species, but between different states of being. "Ready for your session?" Lyra asked, her hand brushing his arm in a gesture that sent quantum ripples through both their consciousness. Marcus nodded, moving toward the neural interface platform. Around them, humans and aliens worked together, their minds linked in ways that transcended traditional understanding. The teenager watched in fascination as Marcus and Lyra's consciousness patterns merged on the quantum display, creating something entirely new. This was humanity's future, not conquest or submission, but true partnership. Evolution through understanding. Unity through diversity. The quantum nature of human consciousness had turned out to be the key not just to galactic acceptance, but to the next stage of development for all species. As his mind merged with the quantum field, Marcus reflected that his choice before the council had been the right one. Humanity wasn't just ready for the stars, they were ready to help reshape the very nature of galactic civilization. The story of human-alien relations wasn't ending, it was just beginning. And somewhere in the quantum fabric of reality, ancient prophecies smiled at the convergence they had long foretold.